So, what if I told you that building wealth has almost nothing to do with luck, or getting a high paying job, or even grinding out 80-hour weeks? According to the investor and philosopher Naval Ravikant, it's actually about learning a very specific set of skills. And that right there, that's the key that unlocks everything. Naval sees wealth creation as a game. And like any game, once you learn the rules, you can figure out how to win. So today, we're going to dive into his playbook and see exactly how it works. All right, so before we get into the how of building wealth, we really need to understand the who. Because Naval's ideas aren't just some abstract theory, they're born from his own incredible life story. I mean, he grew up as a poor immigrant kid in New York, and for him, the library was his escape, his sanctuary. And that whole experience shaped his belief that wealth isn't about where you come from, it's about the skills you build. In fact, he's so sure of this skill set that he says if you took everything away from him tomorrow, he could be wealthy again in 5 or 10 years. Just think about that confidence.
Okay, to really get on the right track here, we have to start with a really crucial distinction: the difference between wealth and money. They are not the same thing.
See, wealth, that's the real goal. Wealth is the stuff that works for you even when you're not working. It's the businesses, the investments, the software programs, the assets that are cranking out value for you around the clock. Wealth is what buys you your freedom. Money, on the other hand, that's just the tool we use to move wealth around. It's like a social IOU. It's a temporary placeholder for value you've already created. So you see, chasing money is like staring at the scoreboard instead of actually playing the game. And this brings us to the two different games you can play in life. The wealth game is what we call positive sum. You win by creating something new that benefits everyone. But then there's the status game. That one is zero sum. For you to move up, someone else has to be pushed down. Naval's advice here is simple but profound. Avoid the status game at all costs. It's a trap that just leads to envy and conflict, not real value. All right, so how do you actually play this wealth game? How do you build that engine for creating wealth? Well, Naval breaks it all down into a really clear, practical formula. It all stands on 3 core pillars: specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage. Let's dig into each one of these. First up, specific knowledge. Now, this is not something you're going to learn in a classroom. It's that weird, unique intersection of your own personal passions and curiosities. It's that thing that feels like play to you, but to anybody else watching, it looks like hard work. That's your superpower. And this is exactly why it's so incredibly powerful. When you build your skills around what you're genuinely, authentically into, you literally step outside of the competition. Nobody else can replicate your unique blend of interests and skills. The next pillar is accountability. This is all about putting your own name on the line. It means taking risks and having some real skin in the game. Look, society isn't going to give you the big rewards like equity in a company or real leverage if you aren't willing to own the failures along with the successes. And that brings us to the final and maybe most powerful pillar: leverage. This is the secret to creating massive, massive scale. Now, historically, if you wanted leverage, you needed things like capital or labor. You needed permission. Somebody had to give you money, or a bunch of people had to agree to follow you. But today, the game has totally changed. We now have what Naval calls permissionless leverage. Anybody with a computer can write code or create media, right? You can build an app, you can start a podcast, you can write a newsletter that works for you 24/7, reaching potentially millions of people, all without having to ask anyone for permission. This right here is the engine of the new rich. And this is the really critical point. Leverage acts like a giant amplifier for your judgment. With it, the quality of your decisions becomes way more important than how many hours you work. A slightly better decision, when amplified by leverage, can lead to a massively better result. Okay, so we've got the mindset, we've got the 3 pillars. Now, how do we put all of this together into one single, powerful, actionable idea? Well, it all boils down to this one incredibly elegant phrase from Naval: productize yourself. Let's break that down. The yourself part, that's your unique, specific knowledge and your willingness to be accountable. The productize part, that's all about applying leverage through code or media to scale your uniqueness out to the entire world. It's the perfect fusion of your authenticity and massive scale. And finally, Naval leaves us with this powerful, kind of provocative thought. The whole pursuit of wealth, it's not really about the money in the end. It's a path to finding freedom. the freedom to control your own time, to work on what you love, to just be your most authentic self. The real prize isn't the pile of cash, but who you become on the journey to get there. It makes you think, what are you truly seeking?